Welcome to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller, the podcast. These episodes were originally aired on Brookings Radio. Now they're on the net for you.
Hey, if you want to hear anything special on the show, reach out to us on Facebook. We're always looking for new content. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. When you delve into craft beer, you begin to notice there are different kinds of craft beer drinkers. The first-timer, the dabbler, the aficionado, unfortunately, the snob. Some people go through some or even all of the stages. Seth Cook, co-owner of Wooden Legs Brewing in Brookings, says it's pretty common for people to go from one stage to another as they evolve in the craft beer world.
You can grin because some of them are fun. You might shake your head because you might think, oh, goodness, I probably did that once or twice, or I know somebody that did that once or twice. But we'll just go over the ones we saw, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this show.
First one that came to my mind is there's sort of the dabbler, the person who occasionally will drink some craft beer, but that's not their predominant thing.
Right, and I think that also covers kind of the neophyte. That's usually a first-time thing, is that they'll drop in and say, what is this all about, and try a little bit, and then, enjoy the experience, sometimes not, and then they'll go back to their regularly scheduled program at the end of the weekend. I think everybody starts as a dabbler a little bit. It's easy to be a dabbler now when you have breweries in town and doing all those things, but I think a lot of people started their dabbler probably with the Mixer Sixer. They went into the liquor store and said, well, here's my regular. I'll buy a 12-pack, an 18-pack, whatever, a 30-pack of my regular, and I'm going to pick up these sixes. Most of the time that we get to interface with the dabbler, very often they actually take the next evolutionary step. And you don't stay as a dabbler quite that long. Sometimes you do, but most of the time they kind of progress to, I would say, you can use the word you want, but I'd almost say like the journeyman, or the one that becomes really kind of enthralled with the whole situation and really starts to explore the different styles.
You probably have an app on your phone at this point, drinking almost entirely craft beer. Occasionally you might stray.
What I think the word we would use for it is maybe the box checkers, the X checkers. You kind of, once you begin out of the dabbler phase, you start to have this desire to try all the different flavors. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I still live in this phase on occasion. You get to check the box to say, oh, did I try this new Pilsner?
Become one of the tickers.
Or did I check the box to say I tried this rare beer from this rare company? This is a pretty wide spectrum here. So it probably starts by trying to try flights and try everything on the list, and it evolves eventually, and we'll talk about the next step, but it evolves into the real active seeking of a lot of the things that you're going to want to drink.
And there are people who never get out of that stage where they just almost become consumed by it. And they become beer traders. There's people actually trade beer via the mail. It becomes almost an all-consuming thing for some people.
Right, and everybody needs a hobby, and and you know what? This isn't a bad hobby to have. Fun story: we've actually met a number of retired folks that have come through the pub here in Brookings that wanted to have a beer in all 50 states and wanted to try all the breweries, and they would come sit down for a couple beers, and that. I can think of at least two families, I think there was a third, that's what they did.
Not a bad way to spend your retirement. More Beer Untapped after this. Welcome back to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. This week, the evolution of the craft beer drinker. We've touched on the neophyte or dabbler, the box checker. Seth Cook says sometimes those tickers can take a bit of an ugly turn.
The beer traders that refuse to drink anything twice. They find a sense of pride in having beers that nobody else has had. And we kind of get into this bad variant of the beer checker.
It's nearing the beer snob.
Very, very close. I have fallen victim to that sometime, where I like to try a beer just because it's extreme or nobody else has had it. But you have to temper your enthusiasm with the fact that there's a lot of good beers that are still commonly available. But that's probably the upper end of the spectrum, is kind of that beer snob. I know we probably all know somebody that at some point in their life has acted that way a little bit, but that's I'm
guilty of that at one point. I think I'm getting over it, but yeah.
I think once people become a beer snob, it takes about 2 minutes for them to get some self-consciousness to remember that they're like, oh wait, we're just drinking beer and having fun. So that's the one kind of mutant variant of this beer evolution that we should look to avoid.
And I suppose I'm guilty of this at times too, and that is maybe taking it all a little too seriously. It's fun. I mean, come on, mellow out a little bit.
And that's I do too. And I almost want to call this the the beer apostle at the very top. Like you get to a point where you've went through this, and the beer apostle is the one that all of your friends really like too, because the beer apostle comes over and they've got beers for everybody to try. And the beer apostle is ready to share not only his wares, but his knowledge or her knowledge in a very positive way to say, here's why you like this. And they're excited for it. The beer apostle is the one that gets other people into the industry. It's fun. It's energizing, it's exciting, it's scientific, it's creative, and they're fun to be around. So my challenge is to everybody that has listened to this show is to become a beer apostle, become somebody that there is so much for us to learn inside of this industry. There's still so much for us to grow. The best beers in the world have not even been brewed yet, in my opinion. Like the world is still open to creative thought, and go and share with people.
That's it for this week's show. Until next time. Drink local and drink responsibly. Thank you for listening to Beer Untapped with Perry Miller. Originally aired on Brookings radio stations K Country 102.3, The Hawk 107.1, and B93, and now here for your listening enjoyment as well. If you want to hear it live, it's every Wednesday and Saturday on those 3 stations.
And of course, if you're not in the Brookings area to hear it live, you can find us on the internet on your favorite podcast player. If you like this show, make sure to rate and review, or maybe even tell your friends.